Pumari e whakalawalahi atu. Welcome to the Daily Examiner, and this is Talanoa Sawa Friday Night Live. Welcome! Really good to have you with us tonight. I am riding solo at the moment, but we'll see if the other two come in. And that's a lot of it's my fault. Let's just say I've got a bit of a rep with organisation or whatever you might have. Look, we do have a bit to talk about tonight, and I would love it if you want to join in and have a bit of a ask as well, to join in and have a bit of a Talanoa yourself. If you speak up, if you write in, I will do my best to bring it in and we can have a bit of a discussion. But I think it could be real good to have a chat tonight, especially in terms of the fact that it's Matariki. So I've got a little spy coming in at the moment. Alright, so first up tonight, let's have a bit of a discussion around Matariki itself. Look, I hope you are having a bit of a decent Matariki. I hope it was good for you. I hope it was easily planned. Please excuse me. I need to do this. I need to do a quick... Oh, okay. Alright. So Matariki, of course, was brought out by the Labour Party. Labour Party is the ones who've done it. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, wonderful. So we've already got some chats in here at the moment. Jocelyn, beautiful, thank you so much. Awesome. And why you're wearing a Trump 24 hat? The reason why I'm wearing a Trump 24 hat is because I support very greatly Trump's policies. He was pretty much the only pro-life president we've had for quite a while in terms of the UN, in terms of the US. He was also the guy who brought down unemployment for blacks and Hispanics, the lowest since records began. He also was the one who kicked out the most sex predators out of his nation. Ever since he brought down more military conflicts, so he was actually able to lower the level of military conflicts that the US were a part of. He was really excellent for doing the things that they needed to make America, well, great. So I think policy-wise he was awesome. Yes, the media hated him, but I don't think it's too much of a surprise that the media would hate someone who appears to be pro-life, one who attempts to bring up the validity of Christianity, of religion, the getting rid of coyotes and sexual predators from the nation. It is interesting how the media just absolutely hate him. And have a look at what's happening now under Biden. Shouldn't be too much of a surprise there. Maloni from Danny. Danny, good to see you guys there. Really wonderful there. Troy McDonald, wonderful hat. Thanks. Excellent, eh? I can tell you that my wife has a bit of a love-hate relationship with the hat. When we do go somewhere, she does ask to take it off. For example, today we went to Newmarket Mall, and I did get a bit of a wry look. Also interesting, everyone had their sheep mask on, or most of them did. So quite fascinating as well. So we've got Tay in there. Preacher brother, I'm from Texas, living in New Zealand, last 12 years in Bro, spot on. Hey, Seki. Well done. Thank you, Tay. Great stuff there. Right, so let's have a little bit of a chat here, and I'll keep on jumping over to the comments as we can. Matariki. Matariki, of course, is the day. It's the constellation. I believe it's the Pleiades. I believe that's how you say it. I might be wrong. Or the Seven Sisters. So it is a constellation that's known. The government really shoved it through hard and fast, and they did make it a forced holiday, so to speak. There was no one who can actually stop it. And I want to say that I whakapapa, or my bloodline, is in Niue Tonga and over in England. The Māori side of myself is Te Atiawa Ngāti Raukawa, over in the west coast. My bloodline tracks back to Te Rauparaha's war band. There was slavery and murder conducted, and so that's how my bloodline came to be. I also tikanga, so I learnt my tikanga, which is Māori customs, rules, traditions, in terms of the wakato under Tainui. So I have a bit of a broad spectrum understanding of what is and what isn't. And while I am no great expert on overall Māoridom, what I can tell you is that over the decades I have never once heard of the term matariki. So when the government has tried to be pushing this matariki has been known for generations and it was again stripped by the evil white man, that's absolute bollocks, that's absolute nonsense. Almost all of us, as in all of us who have Māori blood, we were never taught or understood matariki as any significance whatsoever. So when they have been flooding our platforms with this matariki narrative, it is quite fascinating because it's inaccurate and erroneous and it's just shoved down your throat. If you'll notice, the most mainstream media have been shoving it down our throats all day long. And isn't that fascinating? I think they're putting it there. Oh, we've got an interloper coming in. Liao Tilsley, good to see you there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good.
Friday. Matariki.
Happy Friday. Happy Matariki. Hey.
Did you see the stars today?
I didn't. It was raining. So, Liao, let's find out from yourself. What about you? What is Matariki to you?
Wow. Yes. Well, it's become a holiday, isn't it?
It is. The holiday part's cool. I mean, we all get a day off. We all paid for it.
I have known about Matariki for a long time. And in some ways it was good to actually have it as like something that we've kind of learnt in the past, but not something that's enforced on us. Like, that's the one thing I just actually find very what's the word? I find it like the way that they are enforcing things on us makes me think that there is definitely a bigger reason to this, a bigger purpose to this. So when I was younger, I was just saying to Doug, my husband, that we learned a lot of stories, learning about Danielle, learning about different stories, Māori legends. We learned that, and it was something that we were able to, I guess, not incorporate into our lives, but just have it as this is something that I've learnt. This is the stories that were passed down. But to enforce something like this on us, and I know the struggle that small to medium-sized businesses are having, adding another day, a holiday to this is horrific. So,
yep.
There's a real struggle that I feel there's so many things that we could fix. This is not part of the fixing at all.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, when I was at school, when I was learning my tikanga, I was just saying to the crew before that we were never taught about matariki, and my bloodline goes throughout the Waikato down to near Wellington, and we never heard about that. We heard about the way in which New Zealand was carved up, kupe, Article 2 breaches, Dame Whina Kupa, Te Rauparaha, all of these characters and all of these stories and all of these things, but matariki was never there, and it's fascinating that they would just force feed it to us with a horrific saturation by a broken fourth estate by the media. It's just absolutely fascinating that they'll do this sort of thing. We've got a really good one here saying from Alicia. Alicia is saying, I find it ironic that officials are saying not to commercialise matariki, to be respectful of it, and yet the commercialisation of other holidays is fine. Yes, Alicia, I think you're absolutely correct in that. I mean, again, the saturation by mainstream media is nothing when and you look at Christmas and Easter, arguably the three most important holidays, I think, in New Zealand community is Christmas, Easter, and Anzac. And all three of them are very ignored greatly. In fact, since the last Anzac Day, there has been a very subtle advice that maybe we shouldn't be having taxpayer funded and ratepayer funded Anzac events, and therefore it would go down. And I find it quite disgusting, especially when the matariki events are all taxpayer funded, and I think a few of them are ratepayer funded, but just extraordinary.
I think what I see is such a hypocritical government. Just say one thing, do another. And now we have a holiday. I get it. I get that why wasn't this done years ago? If we are honouring of Māori, we are honouring of them. Why is it done right now during what we have seen as pandemic? We see the highest child poverty ever, and we are having a holiday to celebrate. I don't get it. My mind is I'm like, I don't get this. Why wasn't it spent on lifting our poverty rates? We've become the mockery of the world.
Well said. Yeah, well said. Absolutely right. So if you are, look, take the day off. It's now taxpayer funded. It was Labour Party pushed. But if you are having a holiday, I can tell you that all of the malls were chock-a-block, so people didn't really get fallen under the elements there. We've got another, and I think what we need to do is to not forget why we've had this holiday force-fed to us. This could have been a beautiful day. Matariki could have been a very beautiful day. But the way in which this most divisive government has force-fed that through has been quite despicable, and I think that's where a lot of the people they don't want to have a bar of it, especially when they've been funneling it through. Just absolutely shocking. Glenn Hill has actually mentioned some of this here. Although I do not mind a legit Māori day off, I mind this Ardern's government PR paid of media spin going hard. Vote promotion hard. Absolutely right. I don't think there's an absolute surprise at all that the holiday was done a year before the election. It absolutely makes sense at all. We've got a question there, a little bit of a personal question from Ellie. Ellie is a cousin. Are those Bumpars medals? I think she's referring to these medals up here. No, Ellie, those are not. Those are my other grandfather's. I am getting them up, but I'm having to get them carefully put up so I don't break the things. But that's right. So I suppose that is one thing, is I'm incredibly proud, really proud, that both my grandfathers went to World War II and fought for our freedom and fought for the defence of our constitutional rights. Absolutely just wonderful. I do love it. It's also why I'm quite disgusted at a lot of what the government does currently. So it really is quite fascinating. Look, I did want to bring up the next sort of discussion piece that we were going to have a bit of a chat on, and that was, of course, is something which we've been, again, really proud to do, which is the issue around the Mahuta family. Now, this is something which is quite a controversial topic, and there was someone on Twitter, an account on Twitter who keeps hidden and keeps very carefully quiet. They were starting to come out with things around Nanaia Mahuta and the family, and this person or people used publicly found documents to show it. So the Daily Examiner, that is the entity that we are under, we were the first media outlet to start going into this and then bringing what that one Twitter profile collected. We then made sure it was put into place, and then we shoved it around all over the place. It was incredibly powerful, and it's chilling to see how inbuilt the Nanaia Mahuta, and specifically her family, her husband, cousin, has been able to infiltrate the very pillars of our power levels themselves. It's extraordinary, the level of strength, and this is number 6. So we have been able to, this is under Victoria O'Brien. She has been able to piece these things together along with, or starting from the Twitter account, piece it together and give it out to our people, the public, because they deserve to know that the Mahuta family has become a bit of an empire, and it is now so strong that it's very difficult to move them and remove them. Alright, now I'm not going to say too much, but there is something coming out that is going to be so massive that it's going to blow all of that away, and I want you guys just to be aware of that and note that. Alright, so that's something which we were grateful for, and this one, of course, we're changing democracy. I mean, it's extraordinary. Liao, what are your thoughts on that whole Mahuta thing?
What I want to know is, it is coming out. The New Zealand Herald has stated that there was going to be an inquiry into it. I've heard nothing from the Prime Minister. There is so many things that she is happy to chime into in regards to her opinion, but not one thing has come out in regards to this, only to defend her. So to me, I think those roots run very, very deep. And this is going to be something we actually do need to find out more about.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Let us join to the stage now. Fuiawai Lili ala Lima. Fuiawai. Wamai.
Malo talo falava. Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good. So we're just talking about the Nanaia Mahuta and the extraordinary, what I would refer to as infiltrated nepotism that's been going on. Now, I don't know whether you've been following this or what are your thoughts in terms of the Mahuta family becoming basically an empire within the New Zealand power structure?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit about this story going. It's been circulating on the different platforms regarding nepotism. I think that's really what it is. It's nothing new. Anytime you come across nepotism like this, you know that it's corruption, and it happens everywhere around the world. I'm just really sad to hear that it's taking place here in New Zealand. So, and in regards to what's taking place, I think that definitely there needs to be a major investigation. And as Leal had mentioned, she had said that some people were supposed to be doing something like that, and they're supposed to bring something forward for the public to be able to look at, and nothing's been done. So all I can say is that it is corruption. Corruption is the same anywhere around the world, no matter what, no matter where you are.
Yep. No. Well said. Well said. I will say you've got. Oh gosh, Magried. That's a cool first. I have never seen that name before. That is a very cool name. Well done. But she's got it there saying Ardurna's using Māori for her own agenda. Yes, I believe she is, and I think it goes actually quite deep. I think it goes back to, no real surprise, her possible ambitions for the United Nations, because don't forget, New Zealand is the first one to implement the UN DRIP, that is the pushing to make make what they refer to as indigenous rights to basically implement it over the top of all others. So effectively, the UN-based apartheid. And I think it's quite fascinating that she's shoving hard everything that she fit in there for a diversity tick. I don't think it's actually for. I think for Labour they're trying to angle themselves for next year's election, but I think for Miss Ardern, I don't think it is. I think for her, it's basically aiming to get into the UN, because if she can get into the UN, she's then able to also push as a real young member and get up real high, and perhaps even attain what her predecessor, her mentor, was unable to do. That is, of course, Helen Clark. When she she tried to go for the top post, but she was not able to. I suspect that Jacinda Ardern is aiming for that top post, or at least has been aimed towards that top post. That's just what I can sort of see, and utilising Māori as a convenient stepladder goes right in gauge for that. It'll damage our people for generations, but for her own ambitions, it will suffice quite nicely, I suspect. But am I running amok there? Am I jumping on tinfoil stuff? What do you guys think?
No.
It wouldn't surprise me, not even a little bit. I don't think it's tinfoil stuff at all. Even if it is, it's probably in a couple of months' time will show itself.
Yeah, true.
I don't see any love lost between our Prime Minister in New Zealand. There is none whatsoever. No heart towards us, no hearts towards the people. So whatever kind of thing she can gain, she will gain.
Yeah, and just to add to what Lau just mentioned, I think it's just another form of divide and conquer. You know, I mean, this is meant to create division among the people. You know, we're all living in the same country. We're all in the same team. You know, we're all pedaling in the same waka, if you want to put it that way. But what she's trying to do is cause a certain portion of the people in the waka to be pulling in a different direction from those the other ones, and you know, that's just not going to work. So yeah, it's just another form of divide and conquer, and it's really sad that someone would actually use these. And what's even more sad is the fact that there are people falling for this ploy that she uses. You know, so I just feel for my brothers and sisters, but my Polynesian cousins who are Maori, who would fall for this type of stuff. You know, it's just like Samoan people falling for whatever it is that the Labour Party is doing, trying to pretend like they care about Pacifica when in actuality they really don't. They're just there for us.
Okay, let's just go off on a bit of a tangent here. Who do you think falls for? And of course, you know, every person's their own person. I get that. But as a demographic, who do you think falls for Labour more, Pacifica or Māori?
That's a good question.
I think Pacific. Totally, 100% Pacific Island.
I think so too. I mean, and I can't speak for Māori, so I'll just say Pacifica.
Do you have any sort of justification around that?
Well, the fact that here in South Auckland we have South Auckland is a stronghold for Labour Party, and I remember when I went on the radio and I mentioned the fact that I was actually running in a different party the last election. The DJ for the radio station, which was a Samoan radio station, he said to me, "Well, I got to tip my hat to you." He's speaking in Samoan, but he's saying, "I have to tip my hat to you because, as you know, this is a Labour stronghold." And he was referencing all of South Auckland. So, yeah, this is the way our people, for the last 40 years, almost 40 years, our people have been voting for Labour Party. When I say our people, I'm referring to Samoans, of course, and Pacifica in general. They have been voting for Labour. And if you want to look around at how things are in South Auckland, you know, you look at the town center in Otahu, town center in Otara, the town center in Maangere. You just take a look at them and you compare them to other town centers around the country in Auckland. And you'll find that, you know, it's like like that movie Back to the Future. We're living in the 80s compared to some of those places. So yeah, I don't see any positive things coming out of our relationship with the Labor
Dawn Race Party.
Oh yeah, there you go. That too. That was initiated by
I
the Labor Party.
I was having a chat with some people online, and when I mentioned that Labour started the Dawn Raids, they immediately came back with, no, it was Muldoon with the National Party. I was like, oh, okay, let me, please sit down. Let me... So I described it, and then they started to try to go off different tracks. But you were saying, Leo?
Myself, I feel that the Pacific Island people have an absolute loyalty and absolute... I just think back to my father who had hardship when he came to New Zealand. And so with that, when the Labour Party was in and they gave opportunities for them to, have a home, so his loyalties became 100% towards Labour. So there is a softness, but we also have our matais. We have our people that we give reverence to. And so the Pacific Island people are very much like that. Now, with Māori, which is what I've seen since I was a little girl, they have a strength that has incredible leadership. They have this warrior spirit. And I feel if when they see what is wrong, they will stand for it, absolutely. They will stand up and say, I am not going to go down this road. I've seen it over and over and over. If once they're awake, they're a force to be reckoned with. Pacific Island people have this nature of a total obedience, until, I guess, as we've always discussed, when you have a relationship with God, he starts to open your eyes and go, there is more at work than you realize, and that's when you start to go and have a different opinion. That's how I've seen it growing up. That's the difference that I've seen with both of our cultures. We are very different, and we are very similar. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
No. Well said. Well said. Yeah, I tend to go along the same way. I would say that Māori, I've noticed again in my, because even when you look at elections, Labour used to own the Māori seats, just own them outright. Then you had the Māori Party, and then even you had some of the other parties started to try to stick in there, and you'll find that Māori will generally vote very independently. And if they come across, when they feel that they've been wronged, and again, I know we're talking in generalizations, but when there's a sense that when they do find out that they've been done wrong, man, they become powerful the other way. And yes. I would actually even refer to Christianity, the uptake of Christianity amongst Māori. Māori had the blood feuds going, the cannibalism, the cessations feuds going on, the marriages that were a quasi-semi monarchy that had to be sort of followed. And when Christianity came on, it basically broke down all of that violence and that constant cycle of attacking each other, killing each other, feuds going on hardcore. And it was Māori who were powerful. I mean, Ratana, whatever the church is now, Ratana himself was a powerful man of God, and the stories about him will just always remain with me and with those, I guess, who are interested in his story. Now, it's real interesting. Glenn, I'd love to know where you are from. Glenn said there's more hardship outside of Auckland. Glenn also is saying Māori seats ride low on Labour. Yes, I can absolutely see why that could be a consideration. But you'll find that the vast Pacifica areas will vote red. They'll just vote for Labour. And again, there's a bit of a thing there, whereas there's Michael Jackson Savage, the Dawn Raids, the trauma of the Dawn Raids, and this very odd sense of, they tell us that they'll look after us. That's what it is. A very, very village type of mentality that's still difficult to get out. I will say this. If you're a Christian, I think that if you are a Christian and you vote Labour, either you're not really a Christian or you are an ignorant Christian. And I know how that sounds. I know that it's really judgmental. It's supposed to be judgmental. That's the part of judgment where we can say, right, this particular group of people who are in charge of New Zealand rules and laws have done these objective things. These are facts of what they have done. If you are someone who is a Christian, therefore you believe in a set of actions and values and morals and ethics that come from a certain source material, and then this group are basically doing these things against that Christian environment, then you're either choosing to go with an anti-Christian party, or you've just got no idea that it is a anti-Christian party. And I think at this stage we're moving into the willfully ignorant as opposed to just, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's something which we need to... I'm just saying. I did want to bring up the next thing that we want to talk to. This is hot off the press. This is about an hour ago this got released. I want to show you something that's come from Family First, and this is a compilation. So have a look at this, and guys, I want us to discuss this afterwards, but I think it's really important to have a look at this. Again, this came out just about an hour ago, and I think it's really important to have a look at. So let's have a check out of this one first.
An incident unfolded this morning on the North Shore whereby 4 members of the public were stabbed.
Raiders smashing into a liquor store in Christchurch overnight.
Was targeted by a gang of hooded thieves, waking the neighbours.
Smash after smash. For the second time in 2 weeks, this Auckland superette has been targeted.
Driving in the opposite direction as police pull up outside.
Taking out Noel Lehman, neighbouring store Posty, and exiting through what appears to be the back entrance. Another business owner expressed his frustration at the fact that there hasn't been any work done to try and prevent ram raids from taking place.
Fears someone will soon be killed as gang tensions ramp up in Auckland.
The violence has become obvious to us with the amount of calls through the police and other, and direct 111 calls to people being stabbed or shot.
So yep, and look, I'm used to a lot of the. Again, I've worked with violence for quite a few years, for a few decades, and before that, I was a part of that. And I think I didn't really get done until and it's early on in that video is when that little kid, is screaming, and that scumbag's out there smashing on the windscreen and trying to get in, and then the boy just screams at his mum to just go, mum, just go. And I think that's what probably gets me the most. But what are your guys' thoughts of in terms of that video? What do you think, Liao? Oh, you're muted, Liao. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I've actually been thinking about this for a little while, and I feel this has a lot to do with police. There'll be a time where we're all going to be jumping up and down and telling our police to have guns. I think there's a deliberate allowance of crime to happen. This is just my opinion, but I see this fast becoming martial law coming into place if we don't do something about it, if we don't actually start going to, well, we've got a new police minister, maybe he will start to have a think about what's happening right now. Not only where people are understaffed and the police, the result of having our families broken up. It's a part of a society that has been broken from our fatherless homes right from a long time ago. We've talked about this before. 1973, when the DPB came into law from the Labour Party, and so the mums were able to go on DPB. Men could lose their responsibilities, and from there we've had a generation of fatherless homes. And you see a lot of these kids that are doing ram raids are really young, right, Elliot? Around about 10 to 13-year-olds.
That's correct, yeah. A lot of them are around about that 15, 16, 17 year age, but they are finding that some of them are as young as 10, 11. That's in the latest crime sprees that are going on.
Yeah.
Yep, well said. Fuiawa, what about you? What are your thoughts about that? About the crime wave that we're seeing, the escalation of violence as well that's going on?
Well, I have a little bit of maybe a slightly different perspective on it from what I just heard Al mention. My perspective is that these are all just copycat crimes of their American counterparts. I mean, American youth are doing the very same thing in America. They started this thing maybe a couple of years ago, where they started just running in bunches, going into the mall and bum rushing stores, and then just taking things and just running back out. And during the time of the riots that took place because of the George Floyd situation, there was plenty of that took place. That very same thing. They justified their actions by, they said that was a justification for their actions. They said, no justice, no peace. But that was basically what they were doing. And so my view of a lot of what's going on is that these are things that the youth here are watching. And because everyone has access to the internet now, they're able to see what others are doing. And sometimes they actually film it while they're doing it. They're actually out there kind of like showing off and saying, yeah, this is us. We're about to break into this, and actually giving a narrative. And what I think is that this is where Leao and I actually agree on in this particular moment, is that, in my opinion, if this is what's happening and this is what's taking place overseas, you got to start to change the way that you police. You got to change your style of policing, because the style of policing that people do have over here in New Zealand is not going to be enough for what's going to happen. I mean, this stuff, like I said, is happening over there in America, and they've had to have strategies to deal with it. And their strategies are nothing like the strategies that they use here in New Zealand. But the strategies that they have over there are quite effective for those particular kind of incidents. And if those things come over here and it starts taking place, a lot of times I mention the fact that New Zealand is downstream from the United States. So, like example, what does Black Lives Matter have anything to do with here in New Zealand? It has nothing to do with New Zealand. Yet they had a big parade out in Auckland. And they just tend to catch up. They latch onto like whatever is popular or whatever's trendy over there, and they copy it over here. So my perspective is basically, if this is the way that the police are dealing with crime over there, this level of crime is coming to New Zealand, and you just got to be aware of it. You got to understand. You got to change the way that we deal with the justice system here.
Yep. Yeah, no, well said. Look, BLM is a really interesting part to bring up. BLM, as we know, was brought out of a lie that was out of, I believe it was a Michael Brown case, when Michael Brown basically went into the shop owner, ragdolled the dairy owner, or the equivalent dairy owner, came out, attacked the cop and tried to grab his gun, and then the police officer shot him. The fact of the matter was that people who observed the event, watched the Michael Brown attack the dairy owner, go out and try to take the gun from the police officer a lot, and they were black witnesses. It shouldn't matter, but they were black ones from the local area, and so the police officer was found to be justified in the killing. And of course, after that, the Black Lives Matter people grouped together and just proclaimed all over the place that, no, it was bad, and just tried to gun it. And then they've done it ever since. I mean, I remember George Floyd himself was high on ketamine, I believe also the F drug, can't remember what it is, but he was high on several different drugs at the time. Watching the tape, you see that actually he was a problem. He just needed to get into the car, and that would have been fine. The police officer himself who put his knee on the back, that was always bad. That was absolutely wrong to do. But if George Floyd had not done what he did, then none of this would have even occurred. And Black Lives Matter, of course, are very well known for being basically a Marxist group, not really about black lives. They have, of course, taken the millions of dollars that have been donated to them. They've bought several multi-million dollar houses for them. They have not done anything else. They have not put money into the community. They have not tried to look for social workers. They have not tried any of that. And there was even the Ferguson effect that it got named that, because when BLM goes in there and does protests on cities, straight after, rapes and homicides go up. Rapes, homicides, and serious assaults go up. And that's what they started calling the Ferguson effect. Black Lives Matter don't care about black lives. What they operate under is Black Death. That's what exists greatly, and of course, they won't do anything to help the community. Alicia's just come up. Fentanyl, yes, thank you, Alicia. That's correct. In actual fact, I do recall that George Floyd was also the one who went and he did an armed robbery on a lady who was pregnant, and he pointed the firearm at her belly, at her womb. Yeah. All right, so we're not talking about.
That was his partner. That was one. That was his partner. Yeah.
So we're not talking about a lovely guy who happened to be in the wrong place, wrong time. All right, it just it's not how BLM operates. And don't forget, BLM also says that they want to disrupt the nuclear family. They want it destroyed and gone burgers. All right, so I think that's something which is in there. In terms of the criminal elements, in terms of New Zealand, I think since 2017 when Labour came into power, now I might be wrong, but I think that the numbers have tripled. The gang numbers in New Zealand, have tripled. That means that they've gone up exponentially. Yeah. All right, a shocking spike might be 20% extra gang members. No, that's no longer the case. It's tripled, so it's gone 300% or more so. And of course, that's quite incredibly dangerous. With the element of the 501s coming over, they've changed a lot of the rules of the game, so you can go after family, you can go after homes, houses, innocents can be in the crossfire, and of course the utilization of firearms becomes much more heavier. Now drugs are sort of becoming, the whole thing's becoming a bit more organized, and I think that's definitely a bit of a problem. Using children is not a new tactic, The reason why you use children or young people is there in terms of the laws in New Zealand, there is a difference between a child or someone who's up to, now I may get this wrong, up to I think it's 12 years old. Then you've got 13 to 17 years old as a young person. So there is a split. And unless you've killed someone or raped someone, unless a young person has done that, I think they would still come under Oranga Tamariki, which was SIFs or youth justice, and that's how those elements would operate. I happen to do know. I know of a couple of cases of the Ram Raiders, for example, and as you would expect, the lives are horrific. It's got nothing to do with the fact whether they are Māori, Pasifika, some sort of what the wokes and the academics refer to as marginalised communities. It is because there's a great deal of pain, and as Liao pointed out before, no dad, no father. Right, so when the closest data I've seen is the 2013, or as in the closest quality data that I have seen is well over 200,000 families, not young people, but well over 200,000 families being solo parent, and 85% of them are solo mums leading those homes. So you've got 85% of those young ones who are either not having a father, or the father is just not around very much. Now, even within there, you've got some fathers who want to be part of their lives, and you've got the mix of the venomous mother, or you've got the one who just wants to use the children as anchor babies, as welfare babies. That can happen as well. We haven't got time to dive into those numbers, but it was a very interesting one. Now, Stu has come up with a really, really good point here. Very good point. Very interesting language used by police around the Murray's Bay, Mairangi Bay stabbings. Suspect by this language that race, religion, or both may be a factor. And that's absolutely right, because now we are having to decipher what the mainstream media tell us. So the first one, which wasn't as bad, I think, was the suicide. You knew that it was a suicide if the report of a death was followed by, if you need support, ring this number, and all of those. And therefore you knew that there was a suicide. Right. Now, that wasn't a bad one, I think. However, then they started to move into this weird, really odd sense of reporting, where they obviously try to go away from anything about race or religion. Now, if it was a Christian, they'll go to a Christian. They'll say it loud and proud. They'll just say, yeah, guy's a Christian. If it's anyone else, especially if it's Islamic, they will try to avoid it in very significant terms. And this is disgraceful action, because we just want facts. Let us make up our mind. All right? The mainstream media does not need to try to carve us up. And look, it's not working. You can see that how they flooded Matariki narrative the entire day. Just flooded it. No one's having a bar of it. And I think that's actually a really, really good thing. Tiko Tere here has written, what a world we have produced for our tamariki and mokopuna. Yes, you are absolutely right. I wonder if I would say what we have allowed. What we have allowed to be done. I mean, our children now are under gender ideology. I've got my child who's keeping an eye out. I'm training her to be aware of it. We're about to see some letters coming out, because the gender ideology is now going to start being pushed towards their school. It's just absolutely fascinating what's sort of going on there. But what are your last thoughts about that, and even about Tiko's mention about what a world we have produced for our tamariki mokopuna? The more I think about that, the more there's a profound sadness there, I think. What a world we have produced for tamariki and mokopuna. Actually, can I get your guys' stance or thoughts on Tiko's comment, because I think that is an important one. Liao, what would your thoughts be there?
So, when the missionaries first came to New Zealand, they brought the gospel, and I'm going to reiterate this time and time again. We had an opportunity at that time. Things changed. People gave their lives to God. We were heading down a direction that was really promising to see our Māori people thriving. Even when we came over to New Zealand, there was a sense of God being in control of this country for a short amount of time, I'd say. As our government started to having more and more ideologies that were against God, and that's all I'm going to say is against God, we're starting to see our generations change, and we now have, I don't know how many genders we're up to now, but there was a statement that was done: if a man or a woman were to die, and in 100 years' time, they're going to dig them up. They're not going to know what gender they are. It's going to be either female or male. And we have come to this time where we've confused our children so much that they don't even know who they are. It's been incredibly sad to watch. But we still have that power right now to change that around. We do. That authority to bring up our children, well, to teach them what is right and wrong, because what they're having to face in the next generation is going to be horrific.
Well said. Yep, well said. Fuyava, what do you think?
Well, I don't believe that everyone is responsible for what's taking place today. I think that there is a certain section of society that probably is responsible for the changes that have been making the rounds lately. And what I mean by that is that the folks who are in power, the folks who have access to power, they seem to be the ones who have been calling the shots. And this is the reason why, as I mentioned before, I noticed you're wearing a Trump hat that says Trump 2024. This is the reason why I said Trump was right in so many ways. When he said make America great again, he was referring to going back to a time in the past before all of these changes took place, like Leal was talking about. These changes took place because there were people who thought that they were smart, and they introduced some ideas about how society should be, some experiments, if you may, in the 70s, in the early 70s, and they're continuing to do it today, which is including CRT and transgender dysphoria. All that stuff is all just like a byproduct of the things that they introduced. And in my opinion, if we want to make things better, there is a large segment of society who are very quiet, but they've been quiet this whole time because they don't want to cause any problems. But they've allowed these other guys to come in and bring their agenda and their changes. And for that, I would say that, yeah, we are all responsible for it. But I think it's just a certain section of society that's actually, their ideas are the ones that are making the changes that we're seeing today, where all of a sudden, I don't know if you guys have seen that meme where they said 17-year-olds back in 1940, they were like getting ready to go to war at the age of 17 or 16.
Yep.
And 17-year-olds today, I mean, they're like hiding or they whatever it is that they're doing is just, it's nowhere near as what the 17-year-olds of the 40s would be dealing with. And it's like someone said that if there was a civil war that took place, and they're always trying to get rid of the guns, if the civil war were to ever take place, the guys who have the guns, the guys who are used to going out and shooting and doing all of this stuff, are not going to have a problem fighting the other side. And the reason why is because the other side is all about doing TikToks and doing dancing and all kinds of weird things. And yeah, nothing to do with survival or anything like that. So yeah,
Yep.
That's all I got to say. We probably should revisit the past in order for us to have a better future.
And I think that's a real powerful thing about conservatives, is that we change what needs to be changed, and we don't change what doesn't need to be changed.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Yeah, exactly.
Don't really far out. These insane progressives. I think they are. I think they're moving towards a bit of an insanity there.
Right.
So, Tico, I hope that was okay for you. Tico has also put I'll change that. Tigo's also put, we have 12 tamariki. We taught them to reason absolutes according to the biblical method. Well, awesome. Just love it. You got 12 tamariki. Woo! Hey, there. Hey, who's going to get punished for doing some bad things then? There we go. So I think that's some really powerful things going on there. Well said. I will now. Our time's been. We've only got like maybe about 5 or so minutes left. I did want to have a little look at what's happened. There's been a new escalation since we brought up. There's been a bit of God aspects that we're bringing up. Let's bring up this one, and that is, of course, the new escalation against Christianity in New Zealand. We know that the Labour Party does not like the Christian faith. We know that they have taken out Jesus out of the parliamentary prayer. We know that they do not seek to celebrate Christmas or Easter in the biblical fashion. We know that they will absolutely, I think Ramadan, they were very, very respectful and very reverent towards it, but not for anything else. So, not for anything Christian anyway. So here we've got Bethlehem College. They were attacked by a couple of guys called Chanel Lal and I believe David Farrier. Now these two are very strong LGBTQIA plus activists. Very strong. Chanel Lal, he's known just to basically hate on people if he can. He's quite vicious. And David Farrier is very well known for being a fetish documentary maker. He made a documentary about tickling for pleasure. It got very dark, I believe, in parts in his documentary, especially when children started getting a little bit attached there. So I think, there's a bit of a darkness there that was a bit worrying. Anyway, those two gunned for Bethlehem. And what did they gun for? They gunned for basically that Bethlehem College said that they believe a marriage is between a man and a woman. That was it. That marriage is between a man and a woman. That's it. Nothing powerful, anything like that. But it turns out even the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern jumped in there as well. All right, again, this is a party who do not like Christianity. All right, and that's why it's quite fascinating that they have so-called Christians in there. Yes, I'm being horribly judgmental. I'm being absolutely judgmental. I'm judging people who believe that they are Christian, who vote for an anti-Christian party, and for people who are ministers in there who believe that they are Christian, but they are still underneath an anti-Christian party. It's why, for example, I like Efeso Collins. I like him. I think some of his policies are a bit cray-cray, but I like him. However, he is underneath the most anti-Christian party that New Zealand has ever seen. By action, not by anything else. So anyway, we went here, and Bethlehem wrote this up. They responded to that. And what I really did like is this really part here. This got brought out here, is we think our Christian beliefs actually support and enhance the health and well-being of our students. Yeah, absolutely right. Our most recent Education Review Office report notes our special Christian character contributes to a strong sense of well-being and belonging for students. That's absolutely right. The fact is that every single statistic in every nation that has conducted these fact-finding missions, they find that if you are in a Christian school, if you're in a Christian environment, then you are just happier, you're more content, you're more safer. Unlike the whole push by progressives to say, oh, Christianity or sexual predators and all that sort of buzz. In actual fact, the facts remain the other way. That it is a safe environment, that it is a very good environment, and one that allows you to have stronger mental resilience, better social support structures, better decision making that comes from that, and the ability to engage in a long and healthy life. All right, and so I think it's quite fascinating that you do that. But what are your guys' thoughts in terms of Bethlehem College? The fact that even the Prime Minister has jumped in there and been a little passive-aggressive about certain things, and that attack, that assault on Christianity, which of course makes up one of the two pillars of New Zealand. What are your thoughts, you guys reckon, on that sort of thing? Fuyava, let's start with you.
Well, I have some real life experience along this line because, as you know, Elliot, I had a meme that was pushed out, was promoted during my campaign, during the last parliamentary election, where I mentioned that marriage is between one man and a woman. And the kind of comments that came back from people who believed differently was pretty significant. And the thing that I wanted to mention is that people just don't get Christians. That's and it amazes me because Christianity is something that's been around for a long time. It's not something new. And so what they should understand about Christians is that Christians believe in a day of reckoning after this life. There will come a day of reckoning where we have to stand before God, and that's called our judgment day. And whatever we do in this life, which is made up of at the most maybe 90 years, well, that's going to affect our destiny, our eternal life. And so that's why we do what we do, because we try to follow what the Bible says, because we want our eternity to be one that's pleasant. And eternity is forever and ever and ever, whereas this life, at the most, maybe 90 years. So, I mean, what is it about Christianity that you don't get? If you understand that, allow me to stand on my beliefs and to live my beliefs until the day that I die, because I believe that there is eternity. And you don't believe it because you believe that once you die, that's it. So you're asking me to gamble my eternity on your beliefs, and that's not going to happen. Thank you.
Yep. Well said. Well said. Now, what do you think?
How do I follow that? I fully agree with you. The thing is that it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough for the left. The left are going to just come for everything. You know, we started off with, you know, dividing with what marriage is. Okay, we had civil union, you know, where you could come together. No, that wasn't enough. We're going to have gay marriage. Okay, bring that in. We've got that now, but that's not going to be enough. That is not enough. And we are standing to our fundamental belief, which is the very core of what Christianity is that a marriage is between a man and a woman. New Zealand's come along and said, no, we're gonna blow that out of the water. Look at the stats of how many gay people actually got married. When there was a huge fight for it, you know, look up the stats of how many. It was very, very small, very dismal. So this is where it is that it's never going to be enough. And like Foyave said, eternity is such a long time. And you know, the happiest place that you can be, and I'm telling you this for children, is to be in a marriage, and in a happy marriage, having our children the safest place they can be. So we are living by those principles, and that's not going to ever change. So we are here. We love people. There's no judgment in that regard.
Amen.
But we are going to live by the way that God has given us to live.
That's right.
That's me.
Amen.
Oh, well said. No, well said, well said. Just bring this up. Oh, look, it all disappeared. Right, so, yeah, I totally agree. I think the attack's been quite shocking. Now, that just segues into something else as well. I just want to let everyone know that, yes, I've had a chat to the bosses of the Daily Examiner, because some people have mentioned, oh, look, there's a few more LGBTQI plus articles than normal. Yes, that's absolutely right. So, because it's Pride Month, we also wanted to make sure that there was a good balanced article opinions on it. So instead of mainstream media who keep shoving it down our throats and saying, hey, drag sexualized adult entertainment is good for kids. Hey, go let your kids go off and see kink at Pride events. We say, well, let's actually have a look at the balanced opinion. We know that mainstream media doesn't really engage in balanced articles unless they don't really care about it.
Right.
So that's why there's been a few more articles. Interestingly enough, one of the articles that we had, of course, was about the gender curriculum that the vast majority of parents don't want it. They do not want it. And I want to remind you, if you are a parent, you have power. Get together. We know that there are Facebook groups out there. We know that you meet each other on the streets. Have a chat. Get it up. Get a group going together. Discuss it. Look, you've got 3 of us. If you want us to get in touch, we'll either point you in the right direction or we'll go there. I know that we have discussed with several groups individually. We've been able to discuss with several groups exactly what's happening, give them the accuracy, the truth in it. The parents have stepped up to fight against this ideologizing and the sexualization of your children. All right, don't forget, gender ideology started from primary school. It's not from secondary school. It was, and we were part of the crew who exposed that to the public.
That's right.
We exposed the first one. That's called Mates and Dates program. We thought that was bad enough until they brought in the pure one in 2020. The lockdowns occurred, and that stopped the implementation widespread. This year, or rather early, not at the beginning, but early on in this year, it's all on. They've blown it out. The schools are now doing their best to try to quietly advise parents, because by law they have to advise you that your primary school children, your secondary school children will be subjected to this. And that's that time where you need to step up and to defend the children. All right, and that's what's really, really, really important. Tico has mentioned a very humorous comment there. Mine will All right. Yes, we do have power. Danielle has said, yes, we do have power. My husband and I had Mates and Dates stopped in our school last year. Danielle, well done. Well done. Great job, eh? Great job. Absolutely awesome. So, Jessica's bringing up, totally, we all need to respect each other, individuals' belief, but it shouldn't matter what gender you are. If you love someone and want to show by any means of recognition by marriage, it shouldn't matter what your belief is. Thank you, Jessica. Absolutely appreciate your post. We want to have discussions around that. And that's also why I have put out the request. I've put out a request to Chanel before to debate these matters, but he won't engage. That's okay, I respect that. But if there is someone who thinks that they want to jump on and have a respectful debate about this, more than happy to get us on the show so that we can have a decent debate about it. I think it could be really useful. I really, really do. All right, Mel Taylor. Oh, Mel Taylor. We know Mel Taylor. Right, the so-called minority are not alone. Absolutely. All right, absolutely right. So look, we keep going over time. There's a few more things that we wanted to discuss. That's absolutely fine. So I just want to put this out there because we have seen this. So What is a Woman is a great documentary. I watched it recently. Can I advise all of you to get to someone? Look, if you don't have it, if you're not signed up to it, get to a friend or someone who is signed up to the Daily Wire, which is a great media outlet, by the way, and watch it. I've watched it 3.5 times. So far. Alright, it's stunning. And if you want, go on YouTube and you can find little clips of it as well. It's just powerful. It's great stuff. But look, we're talking too long, and I know we want to keep this to an hour, and we've gone to an hour 7. Yeah. So, Fuiawai, do you mind? Can we ask you to send us off in a bit of a prayer?
Sure. Let us pray. Father God, we just want to praise and glorify your wonderful name. We want to say thank you for being with us tonight. We thank you for allowing our audience to spend time with us. Thank you for being with us during our Talanoa. We ask for your blessing for all of us as we get ready to wrap things up in this program. We give you all glory, honor, and praise in the mighty name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Awesome. And I just wanted to do something else with you guys just before we sign off here. I'm just going to... All right. I'm just celebrating my birthday tomorrow, but I wanted to share with a toast. I don't usually say this sort of stuff, but, I know it's like that. But, hey, what is it? Is that milk, bro? Right, this could be milk too. This is old potato. But anyway, no, salut. So,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Sure. So, look, thank you for everyone. And again, I want to say thank you so much. If you like what we're doing, if you want to support us, please go to the Daily Examiner page. Click on that donate button, smash it out there. Share this with your friends. We love what we're doing. We have got big plans for the future that we want to engage in. But until then, God bless you. God bless New Zealand. Ka kite.